Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Mission Control webinar. I think we're just going to wait for 2 more minutes before starting. Thank you very much for waiting.
Just if we can get some input from the audience, just to confirm the audio is good. If you guys can hear, we're going to be starting shortly here. So just make sure no issues.
Yep.
If you can shoot us a note in the questions. Perfect.
Perfect. All right. Good. I think we can all start. So, welcome everybody to the Mission Control webinar. I'm Abraham Rodriguez from Genetech, sales engineer. I apologize, I didn't put their pictures in the PowerPoint. So, I'm going to show you the LinkedIn profile. That's my face, Abraham Rodriguez, and I'm going to be here presenting with my colleague, Ali Shaheta. So we're going to
Yep,
be
thanks, Dave.
discussing,
Quick thinking.
yeah, thank you. Exactly, quick thinking. So we're going to be presenting mission control, and the agenda will be to show you what exactly is mission control, how do we position mission control, and we're also going to demo uh, some new functionalities that you can do with mission control with Sipelia. We're going to discuss the architecture, how do you install mission control, And also, we're going to go through overviews and answer all your questions. So let's start. We're going to start with Ali. He's going to talk about what exactly is mission control.
Thanks, Abe. So as Abram just mentioned, to kick it off very briefly, to simply put it, mission control is a CDM, or short for collaborative decision-making system, which is a layer that basically mounts over any Genetec Security Center instance to significantly enhance how you look at or anticipate the different threats that you're presented with, and essentially facilitates the incident response after qualifying the incoming data from all the sensors and security devices that you have laid out. Again, how it does that? It pins down relevant events which need to be acknowledged by the security team, whether it be a couple of individuals or an entire SOC, before guiding through the appropriate response that adheres to standard procedure and at the same time matches compliancy requirements. A lot of aspects being juggled here. So how it works, very, very briefly, again, broken down, if we want to simplify this, across 3 steps. Number 1 would be complete management of incidents from the point of trigger until the audit. Mission control essentially uses a rules engine that crunches thousands of different event types, and you would typically see in security center that are generated, that you'll be able to see in the alarm management, from the most common basic access control notification, intrusion alarms, video, from LPR, etc. If we can consider a medium deployment, let's say 75 to 1,000 entities, and upscaling to 10,000 plus, and above these, you will see the alerts are rolling constantly across the dash of an operator, which is daunting to go through or even keep up with, for that matter, let alone be able to draw any correlation or spot patterns as the system keeps feeding alerts, again, as they occur across your environment. So imagine a large airport, for example. So with mission control, you get to filter through to capture only events that you would consider real alarms, if you will. That would basically require a response which overcomes the issue of alarm fatigue rather than having to go through all of these events. Again, with the logic built into the tool, you can achieve that by presetting SOPs, or standard operating procedures, that are configured in the backend to simply filter, or if you want to say, phase out the noise, and in turn it improves focus, or increases focus on essential insights or data that you can pull before taking the operator through a step-by-step or a guided process, an action list, for more efficient collaboration across your team. And at the same time, it cuts the response time drastically. So with these built-in workflows and SOPs, and again, I'm sure Abe will focus on that once we get going. But essentially, this adds a degree of automation to streamline the process of how your operators digest all of these events, and again, guides them through a process rather than having too many factors where the emotions, stress, fatigue affect your team and how they respond to the different events or alerts that they typically see day to day. So once the initial configuration and setup is complete, after you configure all these workflows and SOPs, you get to push out these factors, as I said, and have the process already, again, logged in or built into the tool, laid out in front of every operator to abide with your organization standards and a compliance policy. So number 2, as it understands or analyze and visualize the world around you, so your production environment, your security system, and number 3 would be proactively plan, guide, and again improve operator responses, as we just mentioned. So organizations nowadays are looking to unlock benefits or value beyond just security when it comes to surveillance and physical access to protect people and assets. But also they're looking to leverage operational and intelligence layers of these sophisticated systems to funnel relevant data that helps them gain, again, that situational awareness to streamline certain workloads, increase efficiency in different aspects, and enable them to make better informed decisions that are essentially, again, data-driven. So the approach that merges data from all your security devices along with the contextual information from related systems to present everything through a dynamic map view of your facilities, looking through these data sets and how you can pull reports for different stakeholders, whether internal or external, that are involved, can give the ability to draw patterns and enables continuous optimization of security operations in general. So to summarize and condense this, life cycle of the process of mission control, before we dig into, the features real quick, data collection is the first aspect. So with the rules engine, information from sensors and devices and applications, plugins even, are captured in real time and consolidated. And again, with the help of the rules engine, get qualified and it sets the stage for a unified and collaborative approach. The next step would be automated analysis, again, so that layer of automation and detection, powerful correlation that basically helps you go through, phase out the noise, detect patterns, triggers the right incidents for your operators to see. And then if you go through the next step to, again, increase the awareness and guide incident management. So with powerful visualization on dynamic maps, shows the full scope of a situation as it develops or as it unfolds, extending into oversight or empowers supervisor to monitor response and observe their staff and keep track of everything as they happen, rather than get lost in a whirlwind of events as they pull through. And imagine a large scale or a distributed architecture, to be able to kind of get a feel of how that would be a major problem looking to be tackled. And again, that the workflow driven response provides a step-by-step procedure and guidance to resolve the incidents. And after that, dashboards and dynamic visual reports and activity trails to simplify investigations, and at the same time, data that you can go back to see how, well, for auditing purposes, and to see how you can maybe tweak and improve moving on. To be honest, it's when it comes to positioning, it's anybody's to work with based on the application required to support. Hence why our team, our product team, waived off the prerequisite that we had earlier of having to run Pro or Enterprise. So your system doesn't have to be Pro or Enterprise anymore to support the Mission Control add-on. Also, there's no longer a need for Plan Manager to be supported before you can add Mission Control. So it makes quite a difference for sure when you're adding the Mission Control layer onto a system where you have the entities mapped out. The illustration to come should show why in a sense. But again, it's no longer a prerequisite to, again, allow for, again, to extend the feature for anybody who's looking to leverage how this can actually help. Having said that, the value of Mission Control module grows exponentially with the number of entities. So essentially a large scale deployment or a distributed architecture, as I said, that in turn generates a huge volume of alerts and incidents that are being fed with, cameras, access control devices, LPRs, intercom, etc. And, on that note, there are a few questions that I definitely wish to bounce off on Abe for us to kind of understand a little bit more about the, architecture, about, some of the frequently asked or posed questions. And Abe, I would like to start with, how do you typically implement mission control in the field, depending on, the vertical market and depending on the application, like we said. But if we can, answer this on a more general basis, how do you implement mission control in the field, and how do you show the features of mission control? So how do you demo mission control? It's a two-part question, but I would pass it over to you to kind of take us through that.
Perfect. Thank you, Ali. All right. So I think mission control is, there's different way we can demo mission control. The reality is it always depends on the client. What exactly are the issues? How many alarms they're receiving? To give you a quick example, a scenario today, I made a scenario for access control. So the goal with access control is you monitor all those alarms coming from the access control system, and lot of times you see on the field that events are getting ignored. So you get door force all the time, and that people don't look at door force events. So to fix this problem, we can use the rule engine within mission control. And I'm going to give you an example. When we, instead of having door force or access denied events, you can filter that noise with mission control. So you can say that whenever you have an access denied, that is followed by another event that could be a motion detection, motion on from a camera. So here you have access denied, followed by a motion on from a camera. Then I'm going to trigger what we call an incident. So in this scenario, it's really it's a filter that we're going to put in a system in order to avoid all the noise coming from the access control system.
Right.
And we can go even further. So when you have access denied, not only it can be from any source, but it could be from a specific door. We can even change the condition. So we can say if it happened 2 times within 15 seconds, within 30 seconds, 1 minute, then I want to do what we call an incident. So the way we implement it is really, we have to understand what are the main problems that the client is experimenting. And based on that, we're gonna use mission control to eliminate the noise with the trigger. We're gonna be able to create what we call also workflows. So whenever I have an access denied event, when I know I'm having a real event, I'm gonna create a workflow that will automate tasks. So for example, in this case, I have an intruder. I got the access denied event, and I can automatically trigger a sound through Sipelia. So I can say whenever, as soon as I have the event, I'm going to trigger a specific sound on a speaker, on an intercom, or in a specific paging zone, and that's going to play automatically. And that's done through mission control.
Sweet. And how do you, if you don't mind me asking, here, before you go into this one, how do you define a workflow versus, you know, the procedures of, and I know you haven't touched on the procedure, but the SOPs that I just mentioned and the workflow, if we can maybe, you know, define this versus that to, you know, explain the difference.
Definitely. So I think just to explain the difference, the trigger is really what will eliminate the noise. So you will really filter the events through the trigger. The workflow, once you have an incident, the workflow, it's the automated action that happened right after the trigger. And the SOP is basically the procedure that will help your operator follow certain steps in order to close the incident. So those are the main three difference between the triggers, workflows, and procedures. So triggers is the filter of events. Workflow is the automated actions that you will do following the trigger, and the procedure is what will help your operator with system operating procedures.
Perfect.
So just to continue in that, so in this case, so we got the access denied. We got a workflow that sent automatically an event to display a specific sound. And at the same time, we can customize a procedure that the operator can follow. So there's different type of options you can select. Intruder, is it yes or no answer? following by if the person responds yes, then you can have another procedure that will say to call a security, for example. In this case, it's call security. And what we're doing is we're gonna automatically you're gonna select the specific paging zone so the operator can simply with one click send a specific alarm or message on the speaker or intercom. So let me give you this example. We're gonna give it a try. So we have access denied that needs to happen two times within 15 seconds. If I do it once, it will not trigger the incident. Once I have my trigger, the workflow will automatically display a sound on an intercom. Okay. And I'm also going to have a procedure so that as soon as the event is triggered, we're going to get a procedure on the right side of the screen. So this is pretty much what mission control looks like. This is my incident monitoring task. I have all the events on the top. I have a map in the bottom, and on the right side, I have all the commands that we can, and the operating procedure that will appear. So I'm going to show you here a little demo case I have. There we go. I'm going to point it here. Oops. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and only do one access denied. Okay. So from the map, we can see that we got an event. So the event is still in the system. We know that there was an access denied. However, it didn't trigger my incident. Now I'm gonna do the same thing, but I'm gonna follow the rule. So I'm gonna do it twice. I'm gonna do access denied 2 times within 15 seconds. Here we go. So I don't know if you were able to hear the sound. Did you hear the sound, Ali? There was a little sound.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. So that sound was the workflow. So first of all, the incident was triggered. So here, what you see on top, it's my incident. So when I click on that, I now have the ownership of that incident. But if you notice on the workflow, automatically it played the sound that I selected. So
Yep.
imagine you have an intruder. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
You can also trigger it manually as well on the map. And again, this goes back to the point that I mentioned earlier, whether versus you don't have maps or you have every entity mapped out. You can manually do the trigger, or basically it will trigger based on a certain again
Event.
yeah, exactly.
Absolutely, and that's Ali. I think it's really one of the advantage in mission control, because of course I can do it manually. You can always do it manually, but think about it now. If I have an analytic event coming from a camera, so let's say you have an intrusion analytic, well, even if it's at 2 a.m. and you don't have anybody on site, with mission control, it can automatically display a sound on the speaker saying to,
Yep.
please get out of the way, we can see you. So there's things like that that you can do, and you can automate easily.
Correct.
So at the same time, so now it played a sound. I have my intrusion incident. So if you look at the right side, I have all the procedures that appear. So whenever there's an incident that is critical, a lot of times it's the response is most likely emotional. So when you have a procedure at the right side that tells you exactly what needs to be done, it's really going to help the operator. So the intrusion gets triggered. On the right side, the only thing the operator needs to do is to follow the procedure. So it starts. Okay, is there an intruder? Yes or no? If the person answered no, what we could do is we could automatically close the incident. If the person say yes, what I did, and this is part of the SOP, system operating procedures. The way I configure is that whenever the operator selected yes, I configure it so that it will automatically show you the paging zone you have to call. It can be a paging zone. It can be, later we're going to discuss all the other possibility, but it can be an intercom. It could be a call from a phone management system. So as soon as a person go select yes, so here I'm going to select yes. Okay, call security. The next step, the step 2 is call security. So what I did is I can, instead of having to punching a number with one single click, I simply click on that call access intercom and automatically calls my intercom. And now there's a, oh, hello, there we go. Perfect. So now you can see the intercom.
See, wave.
Okay. So once you have the intercom, you can associate that intercom to access control. So if I click the unlock button here, it will unlock doors. Can close the call. And then I can, once my call is completed, I can continue the procedure. Procedure is completed, and then I can resolve my case, and it's gone.
Yeah. So that's the step-by-step, again, procedure and guidance to resolve an incident. Again, it's a defined preset way that you do take care of the back end before, you know, you go through this process to, again, it's a dynamic and at the same time flexible to, again, the responses adapt to the situation on the ground itself based on the steps that you lay out. Perfect.
Mhm. So this is really the example of how to use all the components for mission control. You have again, I'm going to repeat myself. There's a trigger. You filter the noise. You decide what exactly is important. What is the incident? Then there's the workflow to automate actions. So as soon as the incident is triggered, what are the automated actions we want to do? There's plenty of them. If you look at the left side, there's you can disarm, arm zone, play sound. There's many different things you can do and automate. And following that, you have the system operating procedure to help your operators with what decisions they need to make.
And I think you can also set a specific, like a minimum upper limit or lower limit that gives the operator, again, the response time. Again, if there is a certain procedure that essentially would take a you know, time that's, you know, more than 5 minutes, otherwise, you know, it hasn't been done properly, you can fix, again, a lower and upper limit as well when you set those procedures. Again, correct me if I'm wrong here, Abe.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. You can do that. And based on that time, you can increase, you know, there's different, all the incidents have different levels. So you can start with an incident that
Yeah.
is medium or low, but it moves further, you can change the priority of an incident. You can set it to critical and you can set it to low based on an event.
Yeah.
So it
And the
all
color
depends.
too, I think, of how it shows up. The color of how it shows up in the dashboard, just for you know, segregation purposes.
Yeah. Sorry, you
Yeah.
said you want to see the
The
dashboard?
no, no, the color of the event itself.
Oh, yeah,
Like
yeah.
if it's a yellow tab or you know, red or green based on, you know, if you want to classify by category or priority levels, again, to help with the facilitation of how you look at all these events as they come in.
Absolutely. So and that's a good point, Ali. To give you an example, shoot by default you have this little icon, but you can choose any icon you want. You can have in this case I had an intruder icon. If it's a fire alarm, you can select a fire icon. You can add as many icon as you want, and you can change the color very easily from here.
Perfect.
Yeah. So now I'm gonna show you something. We're gonna do the same procedure, but there's a new feature in with the latest Mission Control 2.13 that is very nice. I'm gonna show you. It's called the auto open monitoring task. So I'm gonna set that to on. So it's called auto open in monitoring task. So whenever I'm gonna trigger the event again, but this time you're gonna see that the operator won't do anything, and I'm gonna have all the information pop up in front of the screen, everything I need to do. One, two. Here we go. Okay. So
Nice.
with this feature, auto open in monitoring task, as soon as a certain incident is triggered, I can see all the camera associated, the door associated to that, the map associated to that. I can pull up the map and see where is it pointing. Uh, I can call an intercom from the map. So everything appears automatically in a monitoring task, including the procedure at the right side. So I have the live monitoring. I have the playback that is playing in loop. So if let's say there's an intruder or there's a child lost, or I can see the individual playing in loop. I can see the live event, and I can go anywhere I want with the camera to investigate. And at the same time, on the right side, I have all the procedures to help me close the case. So this is new with the latest version of Mission Control.
Perfect.
Okay.
And when it comes to the incident types, I'm not sure if anything has changed with the new version that just came out. Yeah, but there are, when it comes to again incident types, there are collaborative incidents, and they're, I want to say typical incidents. The collaborative incidents are basically require collaboration from multiple teams to resolve. So, it can be assigned to a not just one assignee or one individual, but the supervisor can track the work of different users on that same incident, again, depending on what it is. Did anything change? Anything new on that? Anything to add based on that in terms of differentiating both typical and collaborative incidents?
From that, I'm gonna have to investigate to see if there's any change for the type of incidents. To be quite honest, I'm not aware of the latest for the collaborative incidents, but I can show you though other pretty new great features we have with the latest Mission Control.
Okay.
So first of all, the latest Mission Control, you have the feature I just showed you. It's called a public addressing. So what's great with that, it's that it leverages Sepalia, so you can have all the audio messages. You can have all those messages saved in Sepalia. You can create multiple paging zones. So let's say you have the entrance, the garage, you can have the parking. You can select specific recipient for those zones, and that's really new with you can incorporate that to Mission Control. That's new with the latest Mission Control 2.13.
Perfect.
And one thing you have to notice, as a side note, if you want to install 2.13, you're going to need a Security Center 5.9. So to use the latest Mission Control, you're also going to need the latest Security Center 5.9 and up.
All right. Another question on that note, Gabe. Some of the questions that usually come up is, can we support a Mission Control on a VM or a virtualized environment?
Yeah. Yes. So we do. The only thing you have to be careful with Mission Control is when it comes to virtual environment, you need to have a dedicated resource for the virtual machine. So to give you an example, let's say you have a server with many VMs, and all those VMs use different applications, and the resources are shared between applications. There could be a problem if suddenly we have a lot of events in mission control, and suddenly we need to have more RAM or more resources on the VM. So yes, it is supported, but we
Understand.
have to make sure that it's dedicated resources.
And we have guidelines for provisioning the
Absolutely.
different VMs and yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to give you an example of those guidelines just to give you an idea. So I have multiple type of deployment. The model one is a simple deployment with a directory on one machine and mission control. But there's a certain, if you look at the left side, there's a limit on how many workstation, how many incidents, how many events per seconds you can handle. So
Yeah.
if you depending on the type of site, you might have to use dedicated machines. So maybe a Model 2, for example. So you would have a dedicated machine for mission control, dedicated machine for SQL, and that will allow you to go with more with more events, more incidents. So really, in those scenarios, it's just going to depend on the type of environment that you and the number of events, the number of incidents. And I guess that's why we
Yeah.
have a team of sales engineer. So if you have a project for an airport or a project for casinos, we're going to be able to size the system properly based on the number of incidents and events.
Nice.
Mhm.
Nice.
So just to give you another example, we have a Model 3, which is a high availability. So let's say on an airport, you have one mission control server that fails. You want to make sure that it falls over another server. So in those scenarios, we have a failover for the application for mission control. We have failover for SQL as well with a SQL cluster. So it
Hmm.
always depends on the type of architecture.
So this basically covers, failover, load balancing, um, and I think we have as you mentioned, there's three different types of failover, and that's basically decided based on the architecture and the system, and the load or the workload that we have or the throughput that we expect or see working with our sales engineering team as they understand and study the environment, the deployment.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think the thing to remember is it really depends on the site, on the requirements, the number of events. So there's multiple things we have to take in account to size the system properly. Now there's other pretty great features we have with mission control. One of them that I found very interesting, Ali, sometimes we have a lot of sites that you have to create multiple event to actions. So within mission
True.
control, there's a way now that we can change the macro context for specific macro. So let's say I'm adding a new macro to the system.
Hmm.
I can go and override instead of having to trigger just the macro. I can change the context here. So in this case, it's a macro that will display a specific URL on a specific monitor. So what I can do is I can select my macro, and within mission control, I can simply override and tell them the monitor ID, the tile ID. So whenever I have my intrusion uh, incident trigger, I can display a specific URL on a specific tile, and I don't have to recreate a new macro. I can use existing macros and simply change the context.
Yeah, so the value settings basically changes, but you have like a sort of a format.
Yeah. Another feature we added is a keyboard shortcuts. So keyboard shortcuts is whenever you're entering SOPs, instead of using your mouse, you can simply use a keyboard shortcuts to go to the right, to go to the next, select specific options. So this is a new functionality as well. Auto open incident in the monitoring task. That's the one I just showed you, the auto open monitoring task. Alarm context. And another thing to remember is we also have a web, there's a web API and a UI SDK with Mission Control. So if, for example, we have a client that they need to change the way the widgets are displayed in Mission Control, there's a way to do it. There's a UI SDK and there's a web API as well. If they need to send some certain information to third-party applications, there's a way you can retrieve that with the web API.
Sweet. And speaking, well, when you said SDK, that kind of triggered a question that we also often receive. Can we use events from other third-party software?
Yes, there's many ways you can do that. The way you, for example, because Mission Control sits on top of Security Center, you can leverage any plugin that Security Center has. So, for example, if you have the plugin from Modboss or OPC or BACnet, you can take those events from those plugins and use them as a trigger in Mission Control. And same thing goes with the ASCII commands. If you have a plugin with third-party access control system like Lenel, AMAG, you can use those plugins and also leverage Security Center plugins to trigger incidents.
Amazing.
So everything that Security Center, all the events that you have in Security Center, you can use them in Mission Control.
Cool.
So I guess at this point, if anybody has any questions, we're gonna answer your questions from the chat.
Yeah, I think everybody has access to typing questions. We can take a few here. And to sum up again, the key features that we spoke about is Mission Control can get very deep in terms of how you present and how you show and how you configure. So there's a lot of layers that get involved. But if you want to take some bullet points, would be again the unification with the Security Center. It's just a layer that mounts on top of the Security Center platform with natively supported access control, VMS, and ALPR. And communications again with Sepelia, as Gabe mentioned. You have the workflow rules engine, and to help make sense of the environment and all the events that are fed in from all the sensors and then security devices. You have the static and dynamic SOPs, again combined procedural instructions that you pre-configure, preset for again to add that layer of automation. You have the response and resolution. I want to call it enforcement, since you specify a certain way for your operators to follow a guided process, as Gabe demonstrated. You have the visual reporting again after going through all this data that you get to see how you can pull detailed reports again for different parties to look through to be able to make decisions based on those, draw patterns, and optimize for operational efficiency for the future. Again, the data collection and rules engine helps you do that, and then be able to look at it afterwards after you simplify the incident management and again facilitate the response process. And again, you have spoke about the architecture, the high availability, the visualization of all of these events, and again be able to have better eyes on a big system with multiple events or incidents that are occurring nonstop. So these are some of the things that we touched on. And if again, I know we might not have time for all questions, but if there are questions that we cannot answer in the next 15 minutes or so, feel free to funnel them into our channel sales team, and we'll be able to take them one by one, make sure all these questions are not left hanging.
I have a question here saying, what if you accidentally click no on a trigger event? Can you access the event otherwise? The answer is yes. Uh, the reason for that is because you will always get the events. The only thing we're doing, mission control goes on top of security center, so we're filtering all those events through incidents, but the events are always in the system. So what we're seeing here during when I did the example was those were incidents. So if I pass my card one time, so if you see, I don't have an incident, but I do have the event. I still have the access denied event. You can always access it from the traditional monitoring task. So when I select the camera here, so from here, I can always access the event at all time, but I don't have an incident. The incident, it will really filter the noise. So if I do it twice, go. So here I have my incident that I created. The two access denied within 15 seconds, but I still have the two events in the system because this is an incident and those are just traditional events. My pleasure.
I see
Yeah. So
a
just
question here. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
oh, no problem. Just a quick question. So if a operator click no, so let's say I have a procedure, I click no, you can always go back. There's an arrow here that lets you go back, and remember, there's also short keys. So instead of everything I'm doing with the mouse, you can also do it with short keys with the latest mission control. Go ahead, Ali. Sorry.
Yeah, so there was the question here that was asking about if there are any limitations to mention with creating incidents using federated entities. So and I'll let you elaborate on that, Abe. But I understand that if you have your mission control instance on the head end, where different systems or different um, security center instances are federating, you can still manage the federated entities, and you'll be able to have the visibility. But I'm not sure if there will be any gaps in terms of having the workflows. If they're set up on the head end, you're able to see everything and you're able to control everything with no problems. Um, did I miss anything here, Abe, or is there anything to mention? Anything to note or flag with the Federation of Mission Control?
Uh, I think I call so no, you were right. So you get all the events that you're getting from the Federation, you can use it in mission control. However, remember, because it's a federation, there's a couple of things you have to take in mind. For example, let's say you want to do a lockdown, you want to do certain actions that are not available through the federation. Uh, so if I go back here, you see all the workflows, all those actions here in the left, those actions are done locally on the system. There are like acknowledging alarms, triggering alarms that you can do through the federation, but some of them, depending on the version of the side your federation, you want to make sure that those things can be done if it's part of a. So those that can be maybe a limitation, but it depends on the version you have on the other side. So that would be the only limitation I can think of right now. But every event
Awesome.
you're coming from the federation, you can use them.
All right. Can you export the workflow or let's see here? I'm not trying to. or have the procedures into Excel or PDF.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, right
that's for
here
sure.
at the bottom, there's a. It's very nice because all the procedures you have, you can export them, and you can also import them. So if you have an Excel and you have a CSV, you can take all those procedures and import them into electronically in Mission Control. Let me
Yep.
repeat that. So if you have all the procedures in Excel, there's a way you can import all those as procedures from Excel into Mission Control. There's tools we have to do that. And everything you create here, you can export at any time and import it. So there's two buttons in the bottom here, import and export. Same thing for
Yeah.
procedures. You can export, import procedures, SOPs. And we went even further. You can actually import the entire incident, all the intrusion incident. I can import it and export it too.
Yep. So got a few minutes here. So if there are endless. I got some questions. There's always questions to ask. So I'm happy to keep the floor open here for a few minutes more before we wrap up. And again, you can keep those questions coming in to our channel sales team. I'll type in the email for Team Elias, so you just for future reference for anyone. If you want to send more questions in, you're more than welcome to. We'll be taking those and making sure we get those addressed until the next time we jump on demo. With any follow-up questions, if of course if there are any end users or customers that you're working with, if you're looking on more guidance from our team, however we can help to position and enable you in any way possible to have the mission control conversation and narrative. I'm more than happy to do that again with the respective field team and the engineering team that we have here that's ready to jump on whenever is needed. So always reach out and keep us in the loop. If there's anything specific that you're currently working on or that you're looking to perhaps pursue in the future. making sure my feed is up to date here. I'm not sure if you see any other questions, Abe, that came in, or
No, so far I've been answering some question, but I think that's pretty much it.
yeah, yeah. Again, I will be available to take any more questions as they arise. There are more resources that you can find for sure on our tech docs. And definitely a very good resource that I still use on a daily, well, no, I don't want to say daily basis, but I definitely go to my go-to when it comes to pulling the latest news, updates, developments, whatever may have you. So you'll find a lot on some of the features that Abe spoke about today in the new release. So, as you go through that to increase your familiarity into the product, again, if there are any questions or concerns that arise, any kickbacks from conversations that you're having with your customers, feel free to reach out. And we're going to be looking to assist you in any way possible to again help you enable you better in having the mission control conversation. And thanks again for the time you all took today to join us, and hope it was valuable and informative enough.
Thank you very much, Ali.
Thanks a lot, Gabe. Appreciate the I learned a few things, so I thank you for that.
Ah, my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, man. Take care. Until next time.
Bye.